Greetings, everyone. I am Fernando, and for this Module 9 reflection, I am returning to the initiative I introduced earlier in this course, the SPRice of Pinas 2040, to ask a harder question, not just how we communicate it, but how we prove that it works. SPRice of Pinas 2040 is a futures thinking project I participated with as a program co-author. It champions special purpose rice or SPR, pigmented, glutinous, and aromatic varieties as a nutritious, accessible staple for Filipino families while creating livelihood opportunities for smallholders and processors. Recognizing that SPR cannot compete with regular and hybrid rice in yield and farm profitability, our team reframed its role by focusing on its superior nutritional value and low glycemic index, especially for nutrition-sensitive interventions. Through the Price of Pinas, we work to build a community-based system that links SPR production and processing and consumption to address malnutrition, hunger, and income security. At CLSU, we have helped develop and test various SPR-based products such as Nutri-Bars, biscuits, samporado, muffins, and ready-to-eat delicacies, and introduce them through feeding programs, fairs, calamity response efforts, and eventually commercialization partnerships. It allows us to create demand for healthy SPR-based foods while opening sustainable value chains for farmers and partner communities. Three stakeholder groups anchor the model: farmers who supply the raw material, processors like Nefedco, a cooperative that entered into licensing with CLSU for the adoption of Nutribars and other products, and consumers, anyone in Juana who are meant to buy and habitually consume these products. When I apply Module 9's evaluation lenses, the project already has a solid quantitative evidence, but almost all of it sits at the output level. The financial case is strong, a benefit-cost ratio of 1.2, an internal rate of return of 109%, and a payback period of under a year. On the distribution side, 2,000 Nutribars were donated during calamity response alongside with the feeding programs and fairs. These numbers provide the model can produce and distribute. They don't yet prove it changes behavior. That distinction matters. In a standard MnE logic model, we move from inputs to process, to outputs, to outcomes, and finally impact. SPRice of Pinas 2040 has strong documentation at the first three stages, but outcome and impact, actual shifts in farmer cultivation decisions, processor commitment, and consumers' repeat purchasing remain largely undocumented. Module 9 will call this an evaluation gap, but not a program failure. The activity is happening, but its effect is still unmeasured. Closing the gap needs qualitative data alongside the numbers. For farmers, the real question isn't whether Nutribars were produced, but whether contract farming under Nipedco actually changed their planting decisions and why. For processors, it's whether the partnership was sustained beyond the pilot and what made it work or stall. For consumers, it's whether trial from a feeding program or a fair turned into a habit, and what they actually think of the taste, the price, and the wellness snack framing. Interviews and focus group discussions can surface the why behind the numbers. So my recommended indicator set is deliberately mixed method. Quantitative indicators would track hectares under contract, volume absorbed by processors, and repeat purchase rates. Qualitative indicators would capture farmers' trust in the offtake arrangement, processor confidence in the partnership, and consumer perception through focus groups. In a mixed method approach or mixed approach, a simple before and after comparison around each communication activity would let us attribute any change to a specific intervention rather than to time passing on its own. In short, SPRice of Pinas 2040 can already prove it produced something valuable. What Module 9 pushes me to do next is design the monitoring and evaluation system that can prove it changed behavior for farmers, for processors, and for anyone in WANA. Thank you for taking time to watch me share my experience. Have a nice day.